Hello and welcome into a video that some people are going to hate because I think that they're tired of talking about the subject, but it's fun to talk about these things, to open up discussions, to see where it leads, and to just bounce ideas off of each other. So I do want to preface this video with a disclaimer that I don't believe that this is going to happen. This is just speculation. It sounds like ownership has no interest in doing this particular move to any team. And the free agency activity so far for the Vikings indicates that they're trying to make sure they solidify the defense so they can run it back this year with the same strategies and philosophies that didn't work last year because of injuries and poor play during the first half of the season. So with that in mind, I want to give you my idea. I don't think I'm the first one to come up with this, but it just sort of like clicked and I was like, well, let's talk about it. So the Denver Broncos just recently were able to sign Kyle Fuller in free agency. And quick aside, he was a free agent for about 25 minutes, right? Chicago Bears said they were going to release him 2 days ago. That didn't work out because they didn't put him on the transaction wire. They were like, wait, hold on, maybe we can trade you. And then that everybody knows, once everybody knows that you're going to cut a player, the trade value just plummets. So they released him. He hits the wire, and he's only a free agent for about 20-25 minutes, and the Denver Broncos scoop him up. So Kyle Fuller is now a member of the Broncos. They've made other significant moves to solidify their defense. New general manager George Paton, who is a former Minnesota Vikings executive right-hand man of Rick Spielman, brings back Von Miller, brings back Shelby Harris. I believe he signed Ronald Darby. Don't quote me on that one, but there was another prominent corner that they were able to get. And then they also bring in Kyle Fuller. So everybody's been sort of looking at this team after the Kyle Fuller signing and thinking to themselves, man, if they could just figure out the quarterback situation, this team is loaded. It can make some noise. You've got the Raiders in the same division who just seem to be piecing themselves out and doing weird things like signing Kenyon Drake. You've got the Chargers who are still trying to find their identity. They'll have a new head coach this year. And you have the Chiefs who sort of got, they took their lumps in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. And here come the Denver Broncos in the first offseason of general manager George Paton's tenure, and they're doing very well. So everybody's like, wow, look out if they could go for a Teddy Bridgewater or a Gardner Minshew, or maybe they, keep your eye on Sam Darnold. And I'm just over here sitting and thinking, not to be like the meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's like pointing to all the threads and stuff. George Paton used to be with the Minnesota Vikings, got a relationship with Rick Spielman. We have Kirk Cousins, who, in my opinion, his contract, we need to get out of that. Just to sort of point out the fact that the third league year of the new calendar year has come and gone. That 2022 base salary is now fully guaranteed for this man. He will have a cap hit next year of $45 million, which is ridiculous. That's second only to Matt Ryan, I believe, even after he restructured. And Kirk Cousins himself, it doesn't sound like there's any intent or desire to restructure that with him or the team. There's no reports indicating that that's even being discussed. So he is making 16.9% of the total cap right now. And next year, he'd be making somewhere around over 20% of the total salary cap for the team. Really difficult to put pieces in place to make a Super Bowl run when you have that much of the salary cap allotted to one player. This is something I've said before. It's not news. So with that in mind, we also have to consider the amount of money that it would cost to get out from this contract. You're going to eat up quite a bit. So if you were to just straight cut him before June 1st, which is out of the question, not going to happen, $76 million in dead money. Holy crap, that's terrible. Next, if you trade him before June 1st, $20 million in dead money, but you save $11 million. So there's those things to consider. The Denver Broncos sound like they want a quarterback. The Denver Broncos, we have projected in the first round of the NFL draft for some time now that they would be one of the teams if a fourth or third quarterback was to fall into their lap at number 8. And remember, this isn't projecting trades. You could project trades, them to trade up with the Dolphins, get their quarterback, whatever. But a significant number of mock drafts and analysts have thought that that's a perfect landing spot for a Trey Lance. Justin Fields, if he happens to fall. Zach Wilson, if he happens to fall, which seems unlikely. Now everybody's got him pegged to number 2 overall with the Jets. So they own the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft. Drew Lock apparently is not the answer. Maybe he deserves another year. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. That's a different story. We have Kirk Cousins. We have George Paton, who has the connections to Minnesota. Maybe that's something that the Vikings should seriously consider, given the fact that right now they are on day 6 of free agency with $4 million in cap space and not able to do much of anything to entice big-name free agents to come here other than Patrick Peterson on a 1-year deal. They've had talks. The Vikings have had talks with free agents that were, signed on day 1. They talked to Joe Thuney. They talked to Shaq Griffin. They talked to Carl Lawson, Keon O'Neal, who was signed today by the Dallas Cowboys. Unable to bring in big-name free agents because they are getting priced out of the market left and right. And they've also made some questionable decisions. That's a whole nother discussion about like whether or not to keep Odenabo, bringing in Stephen Weatherly on the same contract. I digress. But the Kirk Cousins situation remains. The third day of the league year has come and gone. The contract is now fully guaranteed for the base salary, and in my opinion, it's something that they can't do. Now, if they go through this year with Kirk Cousins, which is the likely scenario, they'll probably move on from him next year because that cap hit is just too ridiculous. In my opinion, if there's a team out there right now who could get you the 8th overall pick, you could get the 8th overall pick from them, maybe a second this year because you don't have a second right now, and swing something to make sure that you get one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the draft. Now, let's revisit the disclaimer that I opened the video with. Not going to happen. Mike Zimmer is not interested in, sort of grooming a rookie quarterback. Rick Spielman, I don't think, is interested because he still has post-traumatic stress syndrome from the Christian Ponder draft pick, and Teddy Bridgewater was good, but then his leg exploded, and the ownership has no interest in moving on from Kirk Cousins right now, because if you read the reporting from The Athletic, Chad Graff did an amazing story where he sort of detailed their feelings about, they're not absolutely 100% infatuated and married to Kirk Cousins, but they are not interested in a scenario where they make a change at quarterback and the talent that comes in to replace Kirk Cousins is less than what he is now. So they have no desire to get worse at the most important position in the sport, which I can understand. I wouldn't want to do that either. But the contract situation is the problem. That is the reason for the discussion, because it's just too much money to one person if your goal was to win a Super Bowl. You can't build a roster around you. We don't have a left tackle right now. We don't have a left guard right now. We don't have a true starting defensive end opposite of Daniel Hunter right now. We don't have a safety to start opposite of Harrison Smith right now, unless you want to throw Josh Metellus out there, who's a 7th round pick, which I don't want to do. So in my opinion, we know what the hurdle is. We don't want to have this discussion. People want to defend Kirk Cousins because of stat boxes, because of the second half of 2020. They don't want to talk about the first half of 2020. And if they do, they just want to come up with excuses about how the defense was bad, the offensive line was bad. The offensive line right now is worse than what it was last season in general, because we don't have a starting left tackle unless you count Rashad Hill, and we don't have a starting left guard unless you count Drew Samia, which I don't. I don't want nothing to do with that. So that's an idea. Trade him to the Denver Broncos. Would it suck to, potentially go out there with a rookie? That would probably hurt expectations for the season. Yeah, but in my honest opinion, I don't know if this is anything more than a 10-6 1-win playoff team again. So I don't know. That's just something I wanted to sort of put out into the open, sort of just collect all of the thoughts about it and see what we come up with. So maybe that's a potential thing that happens. Maybe we hear some rumors about that brewing, because it's just starting now where people are starting to say, hey, they could use a quarterback. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.